After much delay, I'm finally ready to review Combiner Wars Optimus Maximus. This review has been a long time coming, and despite me putting it off, I've really been looking forward to this... Wait, hold on a second. Holy shit, the 19th? Oh, I was gonna sell off my Skybyte at that meetup. Let me get my together. Okay, now that that's done, what next? Let's see. Oh, I was supposed to do a first anniversary for the channel. I don't really have anything to do. Actually, I did have something planned, but unfortunately I had to cancel it. I was originally going to do a Gundam Unicorn review with some of my friends, but I don't have the subscriber count, the script ended up being delayed, and there was no time for them to record it. So whatever, that got cancelled. I was then going to do Optimus Maximus for my anniversary, but then that failed as well because I still haven't filmed the footage yet, and my tripod's missing. So what am I going to do instead? Well, I'm just going to review this and forget the whole anniversary special thing. No harm done. Well, yeah, harm done. I'll never have a first anniversary again, but I can always do something next year. Now, when I took a trip to America last year, I was going around looking for the first wave of Gen 2 Bionicles. As this hunt was going on, I came across a figure that would ultimately start the upward spiral and bring me back into the community of Transformers. And it was actually two figures, being Legion Class RID Optimus Prime and Strongarm. I picked them up in New York at the Toys R Us in Times Square, which I hear is either closed down or will be soon. What, did you think it was going to be this piece of crap I got in Washington DC? Like hell it is. This figure is complete shit. I found it at a reject store, probably because it had shelf warmed too hard. Hell, I got it for $10. But shelf warming into oblivion isn't a sign of a terrible toy. Don't forget that almost all leader class figures refuse to die right now. I can still see Combiner Wars Megatron on shelves in certain places. Megatron and Starscream. Still here in June 2016. Good on ya, Hasbro. Oh no, what proves this toy's lackluster nature is the fact that it is completely beaten by another Shark Transformer from a decade prior. That's not an approximation, mind you, and it's also not taking into account the for the time aspect. If you did that, any G1 toy would beat this thing. No, if Energon Sharkticon were released in stores today, I'm sure it would be a complete hit with kids and adults alike. It might not represent a shark as well, but between these two Sharkies there's just no contest. Starting off with the newer counterpart, his suckiness isn't exactly apparent in his shark mode. However, at the same time, he doesn't exactly have the wow factor. I tell you, I'm liking the fact that I can use these new quotation marks. It's very convenient. The shark mode does pretty well in terms of sculpting and paint, although it isn't very show accurate, unfortunately. Still, I've never really cared about that in the first place, and this design does look better. Although there's quite a few paint mismatch areas, the overall look of the shark is really nice. The head is especially well designed, with skin flaps on the inside of the mouth, keeping this from feeling hollow, and I especially like the red eyes. They're far more menacing than the usual goofy attitude the show counterpart has. Unfortunately, it stops there. There's absolutely no posability on this guy, which would be okay if it wasn't stuck in the worst position possible. I hate to bring up the original, but at least you could put that thing on a table without it giving you, to quote Jobby,
dead fish look.
All you get is a mouth and a tail, and before you remind me about the fins, I hardly think this is intentional. 10 degrees is not a form of articulation in my book unless it really changes something. As for the tail, it does not look natural in any way. If you try to move it down, it reveals the robot bits and it looks like it's breaking its tail. And by the way, this whole weapon thing is stupid. Please Hasbro, can you stop sending your toys to shitty Japanese restaurants? Need I remind you what happened in the last episode? And to make it worse, it came with a missile that was molded to look almost like literal shits. Not figurative, this missile looked like defecation. Granted, it was in yellow to distract people from that, and I actually lost the missile in America, courtesy of my roommates playing pranks on me and disassembling the figure, hiding parts everywhere in the hotel room. But even so, firing a missile out of your is even worse than a dino butt cannon. And then there's the gimmick. This is ridiculous, and mind you, this action feature really hurts the toy later on, which I'll get to. You know, maybe the overall shape of a shark just doesn't lend itself very well to a robot. Case in point, Energon Sharkticon decided to take this alt mode instead, a shark-inspired space cruiser? Some say it's a submarine, but of the small amount of the show I've seen, this was definitely flying in space. Wrong! They might have looked dumb there, but god, in toy form this looks menacing. I mean, first off, the design is awesome. It's like something out of the Universal Century, like a Xeon battleship, yet at the same time it gives off the feeling of a shark, with all the spikes in its overall shape. Despite not trying to hide the legs and feet, they blend into the design quite well. I do wish these arms could have done a lot more though. It's the only part of the figure that feels underdone. I mean, there's not even any thrusters back there. Deco-wise, these colours look beast, and there's plenty of paint all over here. This kind of paint job just doesn't get done nowadays unless you go the Takara route. Although I'd much rather have an underdone deco than ever go back to the nightmare of Fall of Cybertron, which is actually where I decided to f*** it in my collecting life, it's really nice to see. And you see all these guns? Well, they're all articulated. Every single one! You can also extend the missile launchers, although this does look stupid. It does allow you to make a sort of walker mode though. Perhaps it could be a UTST? An underwater terrain shark transport? The ratchets though do seem to stretch something in there, and that doesn't feel right. But aside from that, the missiles do fire and I haven't lost them. Yay, I guess. For a size comparison, these two don't share that much of a size difference, despite the new one filling out a completely different size bracket, although I'd imagine the Energon version would be huge if it was actually in scale with anything. Skybyte's transformation is way more frustrating than it should be. Half of it's basically unfolding the outside of a shark and then angling it on his back. It's not that it's complex, far from it, it's just poorly designed. In this direction it's not too bad, but going back to the shark you have to deal with clashing parts and poor tolerances, and extremely specific orders of operations, leaving you with nothing but a frown on your face. In some cases I could forgive it, but if we take a look at the robot mode later, you will see why I don't. As for Sharkticon, unfortunately does the opposite problem. Whereas Skybyte's was evidence of lazy design, here we have the most boring, almost 4-step transformation. This is due to the fact that the alt mode basically just folds up on its back. This is almost Silverbolt levels of bad. Burst kind of just folds out and there isn't even a dramatic head reveal. However, also in complete opposition to Skybyte, I can let it slide due to reasons I'll cover later on. Starting off with Skybyte, hardly anything hasn't been tainted by what I assume is cost-cutting measures. The head sculpt is fantastic and the colours are lovely. Unfortunately, that's where the good factors stop. The chest looks nice from straight ahead, but from any other angle it looks gappy and hollow. It's probably not the best idea to have a shark face for a head if you can't fill in the lower section with some robotic parts. The arms both look and play ugly. One's got the old inward elbow syndrome seen on Dark of the Moon Bumblebee, only this time there's the added bonus of a spindly hand that gives the MO1 commander a run for his money, and a lower arm that's essentially made out of panels. The other's articulated okay, but the gimmick makes it way too bulky in proportion to the rest of its body. It also looks like crap. The legs are probably the worst part of this figure though. This is taking hollow calves to the extreme. You thought Titan's Return was bad? Well, this is to that what Donald Trump is to Tony Abbott. Ha! Finally I got to make a political joke. Please don't kill me in the comments.
No one is the suppository of all wisdom.
Back to the figure itself. If it had actually looked any good, I would have forgiven the transformation. Because of the overall shape of the shark, I could have let it slide. However, when you bring out crap like this, there's no excuse. No leeway this time. Also, the feet are too small, the waist is far too thin, and the kibble on the back is just atrocious. Meanwhile, Sharkticon does get a little bit of leeway because his robot mode is actually pretty fantastic. I'm actually really surprised with how this turned out, considering Energon's tendency to skewer proportions. I guess when they're not trying to force combinations out of stuff, they can really create a decent figure. This is probably how Cybertron came into being. The first thing you'll notice is the physique, and it's pretty damn perfect if you ask me. Not hard to do when you're basically wearing half your alt mode on your back, but it's still a bloody good job. Speaking of which, who cares if he has a chunk of alt mode there? It looks like a cape, so why worry? It does deploy the 2 missile launchers from before, but honestly I see no need for this. It would have been nicer if they'd made it transform into something more cape-like, but hey, it's still easily ignored under this epic colour scheme. Seriously, where did this come from? This doesn't look like an army builder. It looks like one of those European G1.5 or G2 Decepticon generals. I don't want to army build this. It's too good. And before you ask, yes, the now defunct Fun Pub did redeco these into G1 Sharkticons. Oh, by the way, did I mention light piping? Although when you don't have it there, it kind of looks weird. You can't even see the eyes. Now onto articulation. For Skybyte, or more apparently named Flop Nibble, his head is on a swivel, and his arms are on universal joints that are unfortunately rendered useless by dumb elbows, and they also frequently get stopped by the kibble on the back. No wrist swivel, no waist swivel, for no discernible reason other than to cut costs, considering how they could have easily implemented it, universal hips, a thigh swivel, a knee bend that comes untabbed all the time, oh right, I forgot to tell you the knees don't tab in at all, and an ankle bend. Too bad the feet are too small to hold any other pose than standing upright. Oh, and the feet also look terrible as well. Did I mention that? Yeah, I think I mentioned that earlier. But they really do. Sharkticon actually has most of the same, except for bigger feet that support the weight better, elbows that actually work, a ball-jointed head as opposed to a swivel, and a waist swivel. I mean, seriously, on a deluxe this old, the waist swivel's actually quite cool. It's not much, but it makes him so much better. The only major gripe I have with him is that his arms are a little bit short. Oh, and before I finish up, he has a spot for an Energon star, but it looks dumb. Still, not as dumb as the figure I borrowed it from. As for a size comparison, Skybyte just feels too damn big. If he were a deluxe, I'd understand, but at this height it just feels wrong. The difference between these two figures is night and day. Skybyte is horrible, completely horrible. Do not pick this up under any circumstances, unless you want to buy it off me, of course. Well, you won't be buying it off me because I already gave it away. Finally managed to sell it off for a smoke screen. Thank you very much.
No worries, mate. Enjoy.
And you have no idea that the video score for that figure was 1 out of 5. What? All around me are familiar faces. That's how I thought.
Alright, nephew enjoyed it, so all good.
Thanks a bunch, man.
No.
Everything is useless, 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 useless. Meanwhile, Sharkticon really feels like a generation's toy of all things. Aside from the rubber, he feels really modern. And if you're hung up about Skybyte, boom! They redecoed it. Happy hunting, my friends. It's another fun pub exclusive, so you're gonna need it. I'm just glad I get to keep this and not Skybyte. Seriously, what were they thinking?
Last night, I had a dream about you. In this dream, I'm dancing right beside you. It looked like everyone was having fun. The kind of feeling I waited so long. Don't stop, come a little closer. As we jam, the rhythm gets stronger. There's nothing wrong with just a little fun. We were dancing all night long. The time is right to put my arms around you. You're feeling right, you wrap your arms around too. But suddenly, I feel the shining sun. Before I knew it, this dream was all gone. Oh, I don't know what to do about this dream and you. I wish this dream comes true.
Do you remember the 21st night of September? Love was changing the minds of pretenders while chasing the clouds away. Hearts were ringing in the key that our souls were singing as we danced in the night. Remember how the stars stole the night away.